Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Titan broadcast. I am here today with Azog, formerly of Supernova Castleberry, and now on Team Polestar. Azog, thank you for the interview and welcome. How are you feeling?
Feeling well. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Azog, look, this is, of course, we're going to be talking about your new team that you've joined Polestar, but let's talk about a little bit of your history. So, you were playing on the Supernova roster very famously, and you qualified through all the way to the end there. How was that experience? Because honestly, we've seen a lot of players here in the OQ. Not that many people get up to that point. So, explain to us, like how you got there, what were your feelings, and also, how well informed did you feel at that time?
Yeah, so the Supernova experience was pretty fun, honestly. I think that's the most joy I've had on a roster, just because of the individuals on the team and the vibes were always good. I think that some of the best teammates I've ever had on that roster, particularly Chookies and Dragoon, they
Yeah.
were great to have as teammates. Really glad that we promoted. I honestly didn't expect us to promote based on how things were going leading up to the promotion tournament, but on like the day of promotion, like the match days, we had people kind of turn up when they hadn't really shown up for scrims or the matches beforehand. So it kind of like shocked people, I guess, for promoting, which is fun though.
Yeah, playing famously with Dragoon and Chookies, naming those great players, of course, who are on different teams now. We'll talk about Dragoon a little bit later because now you guys are on opposite sides of the rift here. As we continue on, so you did. I'm not sure exactly what your conditions were, but it did seem like you took a little bit of a break in the spring OQ. So just real quick, maybe life or anything on the way. What was the idea behind the spring portion?
Yeah, so I just graduated from Maryville with my master's, and I was moving to San Jose to be with my girlfriend. So I just kind of took a break entirely just to focus on work and kind of get my career all settled. So really just took a break because of life. Um, Still was always down to compete. Just I'm a very competitive person, but sometimes just kind of like shift your priorities.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, it is a video game. Life is very, life is what matters most here. So very respectable thing to do there. But you've made your return in the summer promotion here. Now you didn't start on Pulsar. You did start on Castleberry. So explain to me how you kind of joined into that project real quick.
It's really just a friends team, I guess. Like I've known Cole for like, I mean, I'm sorry. Um, I've known Geiger for a while.
Mm,
I've known basically all the members of that team for a couple years now.
yeah.
I mentioned Coalfield because it's kind of like the same general friend group they all hang out in, um, with Matthew, Castle, Geiger, and all them. So they kind of just asked if I wanted to make a team. So I
Mm,
kind of just made a team with them. Wasn't necessarily looking to come back into OQs in general. I just kind of joined because a group of friends needed Nady Gary, and I've been playing a bit more solo queue here and there.
okay.
But yeah, it's kind of like a not a for fun friend team, but it's kind of like a friend team. How it says behind the word, not really
Okay. A
scrimming
little bit
too much.
semi
Yeah,
serious there.
more casual.
Yeah. So let's talk about Geiger. Honestly, a lot of people are fans of this top laner for good reason. What are your thoughts? And what was playing with Geiger as your top laner?
Overall, pretty good experience. I think that he's better than people give him credit for. Um, he has somewhat of a bad reputation from solo queue, at least back when I was playing every day at Maryville. The reputation of Geiger wasn't the best from solo queue, but I think he's actually a really good teammate, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that he has a lot more potential than people think. He actually reminds me a lot of Dragoon with how he plays and kind of views the game. It's like when we had like discussions and things like that. It reminded me a lot of my time with Dragoon on Supernova.
Okay, some high remarks. Solo queue is not really everyone's best. It brings out the worst in everyone. So we don't judge entirely on solo queue here. Also, namesake Castleberry. How was Castle on your team? Well, actually, I guess it's his team,
Guys,
but like
yeah. I mean, that guy's lead sin is crazy. Really good at his scary champs. I think that he's gonna do great at Grandview. I know that's where he's playing for college, and that's actually where I graduated from my undergrad. So I'll make sure to keep watching all of his games and cheering them on. But I think he's gonna do a lot of good stuff there.
Mhm. All right. So as well, we have to talk about supports because you are an AD carry down there with Pika Pika in the bot lane. I have to say, watching you guys play in the OQs, I basically said that you guys were like the wild animals of bot lane. You guys were like insane, crazy, doing like double extended dives, not resetting, going for these crazy, crazy leads in bot lane. You pulled it off a couple of times as well, and sometimes you guys did end up dying, but still very strong in the bot lane. So tell me how you guys decided to play this bot lane style because it was very entertaining, but also very crazy.
Um, I think it's just naturally how we played, I guess. So the supports I'd been playing with before Pico were Shady and Zyko, and those are very much lane dominant, kind of just min max supports. So that's kind of the play style I adopted over the past couple of years.
Hmm.
And then when I played with Pika, I mean, we even played without comms, I think, for our first 4 or 5 times playing together, just to like kind of feel for how we played. And Pika kind of matches the same play style of Psycho. So it kind of just like fit naturally to kind of just like play that very aggressive style.
Yeah, is that something that? So that seems like that's something that you like to be a lane dominator.
Not necessarily. I mean, I like to kind of just fit the mold of the team. It's kind of always like the, I guess, play style I've done for. So I know back at Maryville, there was some styles where we had to play exclusively to top lane. There's some we had to play exclusively to bot. Um, I like to be able to kind of just fit the mold for the team and kind of allow the team to play whatever the best style is like fit the team.
Okay, so you like to fit with the team. However, if you do have a preference, like what is like your style, or maybe what is if you don't really necessarily have a style, like what is something that you think is that you are particularly good at?
I think the 1v1 AD carries, like the AD carries that like to be left alone in the bot and kind of just like fend for themselves. I think that style kind of fits me. Like I've always been a big fan of champs like Varus and Ashe. I like being able to have utility and have a go button as the AD carry.
Mhm.
Pretty sure my time in Supernova, a vast majority of my kill participations were playing these kind of global AD carries like Ashe, where I'm kind of able to look for plays on myself and make things happen on the map. So I think that probably fits my play style the best.
Okay. Any mages? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of Ziggs practice from my time in
yeah,
Maribel, and I think that champ is just broken. Always has been and always will be.
very strong.
Kind of had my eyes opened when I sat next to APA every day for a year, and I just watched him play Ziggs. Um, that champion is
That
absurd.
that might tend to do it if you watching APA. Yeah, very good, strong counter to a lot of meta champions as well. So I do think it's an underrated pick. A lot of AD carries feel like some kind of shame or disdain towards the mages. Is there some part of you that understands that, or it's like just play what's good, guys?
Nah, I think it's cope. I think it's flex to be able to play whatever's best at the time. Like I remember back in the day when Swain Vladimir was some of the most broken bot laners in the game for
Mm-hmm.
like a solid 2 or 3 months. Like everyone was complaining that like these weren't 80 carries, but like you just gotta play whatever's best in the role at the time.
Yeah.
I think that if you're someone who says otherwise, you're kind of just coping. If you
What?
want to
Okay,
play in the team, you have to be able to adapt to meta.
little bit of a sidetrack here. How would you feel if League of Legends turned into 80s are mid lane and mages are bot lane?
Um, I'd be pretty indifferent. I mean, I don't really care what champs I'm playing, to be honest.
All right.
Never really have. So I'm down for it. I mean, I think I have the advantage of I'm more willing to just play whatever. And that might just be because of years of experience and going through different metas, but I even now, like I literally just go.gg and I look up the most priored 80 carries and just fucking okay,
There we
well,
go.
whatever's
All right.
best here, I'm gonna start practicing this and looking at this because like I don't know, the way I see it is if all these pro teams have a whole bunch of people that it's their full time job to get, you know, the best information about carries and what's good, like it's a pretty good idea to follow them, right? Like it saves me a lot of time of research if I can just, copy the homework of people who get paid full time to do it. So
Makes a lot
it's
of
kind of been my
sense.
philosophy for a while.
Yeah, especially people LPL, LCK, of course. Makes sense to get ideas for them. I wouldn't say fully copy everything that they do, but
Yeah, of course.
definitely
You can
is
always
a
adapt it to
exactly.
how you want to play. But it's always good to use as a reference, especially from like the highest level of players. It's obviously like you know
Mhm.
they're there for a reason. They're pretty good. So
Okay, so we got a little bit off track. Definitely my fault, but let's go ahead and round the CB section here with how it ended basically. So you get into your GSL group or the group stage portion, and you run into Ducky Getters. Now we all know this should have been a 2-0. Okay, tell me what happened in that infamous game.
I think we all just choked. I know individually I choked a lot. Like I had a big lead on Samira, and I just like inted like 5 fights in a row. Um, I don't like to make excuses. I just inted. It is what it is. I know a couple other individuals on the team also inted, but basically the whole series we kind of just all choked. I guess. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't like any flame towards each other or anything like that. We all kind of just agreed that we all just choked, and even the week following, just choked again as a
Yeah.
team. Just happens sometimes. I mean, vibes were good, scripts were good leading up to that. We were pretty confident going into the match. Even game one, we kind of stomped them, and then all seemed good. But I mean, it just happens.
Okay, yeah, sometimes you do get rattled or flustered. Something happens in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the Duckies one though, they also picked quite strange drafts. Do you think that had a factor to do with it, or it was just really like your personal
Not
play?
really. I think we just tilted off of game two, and I think game three we were going to lose no matter what they picked,
Hmm.
just because I think we were all rattled from game two and how it ended.
Okay.
We were like in the driver's seat for game two, and we just tossed the entire game. Like I know they picked a Rengar Iron in game three. Um, I have a lot of experience playing against that because of UST back when it was Kitsu and Lobby Bob. I was
Hmm.
playing for Miracle, so like, I have a lot of experience playing against that. It's kind of cheesy. I mean, we all knew how to play against it. I don't think that picks were made much to do with the fact that we were just tilted going into game three, and I think we were going to lose no matter what.
Okay. Because I had you guys top four team for that OQ, um, so I pretty much thought you guys were going to be set for the playoffs there. And in your play, I felt like you guys were in leads most of those games. So, a bit unfortunate not able to pull through there. But let's talk about Ducky Gators just for a little bit because they do have some new players. So they have Dr. Calculus, they do have Rough Beans, and they do have Bio. So playing against them, what are your initial thoughts? Because these are basically, well, they're not fully rookies. Some of them, like Bio, definitely is a rookie, but they've had some experience. First time in OQs. Do you think they have a bright future ahead of them, or do you think they still need a little bit more time?
Um, I'm not the best person to speak on this because I mean this in no disrespect to them. Most of the people we play against, I've never seen before,
Mm-hmm.
just because I took a break and I know there's some players coming in. And when I was playing for Maryville, like we played against basically exclusively NACL teams and a couple of the bottom LCS teams for scrims and things like that. So I just genuinely don't know like 90% of the players just because I haven't been around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Playing against them, I don't notice much because I'm focusing more on my team and my own game. I think, yeah, I just don't think I'm the best person to give an opinion on that, I suppose, just because I just don't genuinely know them for the most part.
Okay, that's fine. I'll keep the questions to more OG players for sure and NACL players. Then, all right. So that was your CB run. Cut short. However, we move into the very short off season. I don't know how long it was, a week. And while you guys are ruminating after the playoffs there, and you find yourself onto Polestar. Look, if anyone wants to be on one of these teams who wants to qualify, who wants to make it through, you join a team like Polestar, no doubt about it. So, Azog, how did you find yourself on this roster?
I think it's just from clean, I guess just pure luck, I guess, in the sense that once again I wasn't really trying to get on a good team. It's not like I was openly saying, yo, good teams, come try me out and recruit me.
Mm-hmm.
I was planning to just play with CB again, and then things kind of fell through, but like people just had things come up. Some people just didn't want to play. Just life is like that. And I just wasn't really going to play unless I found a random last second team of players that I liked, which didn't seem like it was going to happen. And then Polestar reached out like I think like a day before roster locked in to see if I wanted to try out, and I just played a scrim with them, and they decided to roll with me. So it's kind of just like
Okay.
I think Polestar got a little bit screwed over by a couple of things, and I think it's kind of just lucky that I was kind of available, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what you've done to the team of Polestar here, because um, I may be wrong in this. Maybe you disagree with me, but I kind of felt like in their last OQ runs, a couple of them in a row, they're kind of like the slow scaling team. They play very controlled. You try to get some early advantages. Maybe you get some, maybe you get a few. Then that mid game rolls around, and it seems like no matter what you did in the early game, they just decimate you in that mid game. And I mean, Ariandel's really good on these champions and can also play the roaming style, as we've seen. And now you come onto this roster, and I feel like there's a little bit of a flavor change. Do you think that you've changed the roster a little bit? You might have adapted them a little bit, or you're just fitting in with the team just all the same.
I wouldn't say it's from me directly. I think most of the change that you're seeing is probably just from Prismal. Um, Prismal is a very aggressive, forward-thinking player. So when you shift into the support role, he actually had a lot more agency in the game, and you can make a lot more individual decisions. That's also how the game is played, rather than when he's in the AD carry role, where it's like the best thing you can probably do is just farm, because like AD carry just doesn't have much agency in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say I indirectly affect the team just by Prismal being able to do what he wants to do in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game.
Okay, but I mean, regardless, you've this has made an interesting impact to Polestar, and I think it's gonna be very important when we get to the later sections of the tournament. So let's talk about Prismal here. You're saying this has mostly come down to Prismal and the changes that they've made. Tell me about this support. Tell me about lane phase, and then tell me, are they a macro god, the macro genius that is creating this new Polestar?
Yeah, I mean, I think Prisma has a lot of experience in bot lane. I think most good AD carries are able to shift to support, at least for lane phase, because they just know how matchups are supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And obviously, he has a lot of experience. It's like sub as an AD carry, many splits in a row, so it's not much of a surprise that his lane phase is good. He knows what he wants to do. I think the big surprise for me was how forward thinking his macro was. Um, on average, most AD carries that I've talked to never really even think about macro. They kind of just are under the understanding that they're just supposed to be micro gods and supposed to carry every team fight, farm 12 CS per minute, show up to a game of 25, and
Yeah.
get to kill. Right? That's kind of like the mentality of most AD carries. But he's very different in how he views the game. Um, I think that his highest potential, in my opinion, is in the support position, just
Okay.
because he's a very active player who always wants to get things done. Which especially is not really something you see at the tier 3 and even probably the majority of tier 2 teams. A lot of them don't actively think about what you can do in the early game and what progress can be made. Which it's funny to say because like it sounds so simple, but just being proactive and looking for stuff to do in the early game kind of puts you above the vast majority of tier 3, including half the tier 2 teams, in my opinion.
Yeah. I have to say as well, just adding on to that, lots of very famous players made the shift from AD carry to support and became even world champions, like Core JJ. So if you think that's, I mean, look, it's looking good. It's looking interesting. So interested to see what Prismal is going to bring into the future here. So let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about the top side, of course. So you got Hoarder up in top lane. What are your thoughts on playing with Hoarder? And I mean, it's kind of just a joy seeing them play up on the top side. Lots of carry potential out of this top laner. Is that something that you enjoy seeing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm enjoying my time with Porter and Will. I think that they're individually very good players. Just watching them play mechanically, I can tell that they're probably the very top of tier 3 and probably beating, I'd say, probably beating out the majority or at least half of the tier 2 players, just on
Mm-hmm.
like an individual player to player. Um, I've had a lot of experience playing with a lot of the top dominant players, like my played with Chippy for a while at Nerville. It kind of reminds me of that very similar play style, where if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty fun. Like I said, I'm willing to adapt to any playstyle to fit whatever is best for the team. So
Yeah.
based on whatever draft calls for, I'm kind of just down to play whatever.
So I like to view Ariandel as like a rock of the mid lane. Like you're not gonna budge this guy. Like I've never seen Ariandel have a bad lane phase ever. You know, so when you know your mid laner is just that solid, does that give you a lot of comfort down on the bot side?
Yeah, I mean it's nice to know that the enemy mid isn't going to randomly get pushed when it shouldn't and just dive me. And that's always good to have. So I think consistency is something that Ariandel brings, and being able to know exactly
Mhm.
how lane's going to go and how the game's going to be played. I think it makes it much easier for Prismal, for example, to know when he can look for roams and when he can do his like proactive style he wants to do. There's a lot of consistency coming out of the mid lane.
All right, let's talk about the future because right now we're in the group stage. You have your opponents in heavy use, so maybe not looking immediately into your future is not the greatest idea, but everyone's got to be thinking it in the back of their minds here. It's the playoffs run. Last time, didn't make it past Lotus in unfortunate series of games there. Was pretty close, and I think that I really enjoyed the style overall. So consider everything we've talked about. You're playing AD carry, principal support, the new style. What do you think is going to be the result of Pulse versus Lotus?
I think we won't face Lotus till finals,
Mm-hmm.
if I understand correctly.
Yeah.
So the big one to me would be semifinals, where we
Okay,
face
so
Dragoons Goons.
Dragoons Goons first then. Let's go. Okay, let's go in more likely order. Dragoons Goons first, so that's a good one. Obviously, Dragoon gonna have to play against Dragoon as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there a little bit of rivalry between you guys?
Uh, it's like friendly. It's
Yeah.
both Dragoon and Kisno. Like obviously, I want to beat them, and I imagine they have the same sentiment where they want to beat me. There's no malice behind it, but it's definitely the thing I look forward to the most, and it's probably the biggest motivator for me even playing in amateur is to
Mm-hmm.
beat Dragoons. Um, Once again, don't mean any malice towards it. It's just I really want to beat Kisno and Dragoon.
Yeah. Do you feel anything about beating Ducky in Wongtown?
Not really. I don't have any personal connection to any of their players. For me, it's like just another day for who I roll up against, unless I have some type of personal connection with the person. I don't really feel any difference.
Okay.
Even if it's someone I've been playing against for many years, like unless I know them personally, it's kind of just like opponent that I need to beat. There's nothing else really to it.
So, talking about Dragoon Skins, let's talk about the bot lane. Obviously, you're in a new bot lane. You think you guys are gonna stomp? You guys think that it's gonna be played through this bot side versus Dragoon's Goons?
Um, I think it's purely going to be just on how the draft plays out. I know for the enemy bot lane, I have a lot of respect for Array. I think
Yeah.
that he's always been a good player. I mean, I think he's pretty consistent. So I don't think he'll be a stomp, regardless of how we play. I think it should always be close in the bot lane. But I think the style that we'll choose to play will pretty much just be determined by draft for the most part.
Okay, so you're gonna play it up to the draft. You think it's gonna be 2-0? You think it's gonna be close 2-1? Obviously, you think it's gonna be close 2-1.
Yeah, I would hope for a 2-0 in our favor. My objective mind would think it's probably going to be a 2-1, but obviously I'm always hoping for that 2-0 in our favor just to make things, less stressful from our side.
All right, and we can start talking about Lotus here. So you want so just the way it's set up, if you guys are going there, it's gonna be them in the finals. Is this gonna be an epic comeback for Pulse because obviously they fell to them in the last OQ? Is this gonna be that sweet vengeance, sweet victory?
It should be. I mean, we played against them in the open qualifier seeding, which begs me to question the seeding process, considering that the third seed beat the second seed directly in the fourth round, but we're still the third seed. So I have some questions there, because I would have loved to face Dragoon's Goons in the finals, because that's how, in my opinion, it should be. If you have the fifth round, those teams should be set up to play against each other in the finals, right?
Yeah,
match.
that's a good point.
So slightly salty, not because like I don't know. I guess I'm salty in the sense that I'm a very logical person, and to me, I don't see the logic in not be seeding for another time after the series is complete. And like using strength of schedule to determine
Yeah.
who should be seeded where, I think it's kind of lazy to just
Hmm.
say that you're going to seed again based off of the pre-existing seeding when you could very easily go figure out strength of schedule. There's a lot of ways to do it, especially with AI's advancement. I could probably find out strength of schedule in about 10 minutes. So
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think it kind of matters more because semifinals is not a BO5.
yeah,
If it was a BO5, I think we wouldn't care as much because you're playing a best of five just like it would be in the finals.
mm-hmm.
So I do think it's a bit unfortunate because I do think every team that makes it into the playoffs, like the semifinals round, should be a best of five. These teams deserve a best
Agreed.
of five.
I think especially with the adaptation to fearless draft, I think
Mm-hmm.
people want to see deeper fearless draft games and series. So not being able to guarantee a third fearless game in the semifinals seems kind of troll to me, especially if you're trying to promote this new fearless drafting style and trying to promote it to like the LCS and LCK, like the highest levels of play.
Mm-hmm.
I think that being able to force Game 3 fearless and get these kind of crazy wild picks coming out, I think that's what people want to see. So it's a bit strange to me that when there's just one series, being that semifinals on that Saturday, it doesn't make sense to have a best of three. It should be the best of five leading into another best of five.
Yeah.
So strange decision making from my perspective. I think that they kind of fail to capitalize on the opportunity to really push that fearless draft that they've been pushing. And it's a bit saddening to see because, to be completely honest, I think fearless was the reason why I came back in general.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of fearless is just so cool to me. So I watched most of the split that I sat out, just kind of watching my friends play and watching them draft fearless, watching NACL play fearless, got kind of motivated me to like come back just because the idea is just so cool. And I'm glad that they're trying to push it into the highest levels of play because I've always had a problem of if there's 150 champions and there's no fearless, the game's gonna get stale. Like
Yeah.
even right now, currently, like if you watch the highest level of play, it's like they kind of just handshake the same drafts, the same 20 champions. It gets kind of boring. And I realized that when I wasn't playing and I spent most of my time watching, games
Yeah.
just got so stable. I found myself watching NACL and LCK challengers more than LCS and LCK just because of the diversity of drafts and all these different champions, different play styles. And it's a lot more entertaining. So I'm glad it's going that way. I just hope that in the future, maybe OQs can look to push Fearless a bit more just to try to, lean more into it, I guess.
Yeah, test those champion pools. Of course, benefits Azog. No bias there. All right, so I mean, I've been having a really great conversation with you, so I've definitely run overtime. That is my fault, but
All
I
good.
still want to ask two more questions. Hopefully, we can get those in. First of the order here is where do you rank among the 80 carries? What's your list? Give me, if you, I definitely want to talk about like top three, top four, but if you could go to a
Sure.
top five, we could do that.
I don't really remember who most lady carries are.
We'll do top three. Let's just cut it to top three.
Array's definitely up there. Just based off of past years of experience, I put Array one
Okay.
just because of all
Super
his
solid.
success and how he's played in the past couple of years. And to be completely honest, he's kind of had my number in the past like 4 years that I've competed. Whenever I play against him, I seem to lose against him. So I can't,
Mhm.
in good heart, try to even put myself at one. Whenever he's kind of had my number, and even in our match against them, in that fifth series, he had my number. I had an opportunity to solo kill him when I misplayed. So I definitely put away one. Um, I don't really know who are the other 80 carries. I know Lotus is
Sushi.
Sushi. They're pretty
Mhm.
good. I actually have a fair amount of respect for them. I played Zaya. I mean, I played MF into their Zaya, and they kind of made me change my opinion a little bit on the matchup just based off how they played. And I went and watched more professional games and see that they were playing it correctly. So I probably put them right with me at that 2-3 slot with like Array a little bit above us. And
Mhm.
then after that, I don't really have much of an opinion. I don't really look too much into other players for the most part.
Okay.
I kind of just show up. tell my coach, draft me whatever you want, and I'll play into whatever you carry, and then I'm under the mentality that if I'm ever left alone, I'll beat them. So it's kind
Okay.
of like the way I view the game. So other than like us three, I guess I don't really have much in general.
All right. Final question here. I've been taking up quite a bit of your time. It seems like the team holding the coach Rourke in high regard. So let's end that. Respect to them. Last question. What are your thoughts on your coach?
Yeah, so I've only had I think like 2 weeks of experience. So far, it's been great. I mean, I've had a long history of coaches, and in my opinion, the vast majority of coaches are just useless in tier 3. Um, I think that some of the most important aspects of a good coach are like the vibe coordinator. He reminds me a lot of Daruk, who was my coach at Supernova,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both very understanding of how their players function and kind of more of facilitating rather than trying to be like that dictatorial figure, which I think a lot of tier 3 coaches kind of make the mistake of. You're on like the higher level tier 3 teams that have a lot of like ex tier 2 players and players that have a lot of experience playing at a high level, some ex pros, things like that. You don't really need to try to be that Victorian figure. You can be more of like a facilitator for your team and kind of push things into the right direction. And I think he does a great job of that. He is very knowledgeable. I think that the biggest difference I've seen between him and most other coaches I've had is draft just feels much better. I mean, I don't really have to think much in draft. I just let him know what my prio champs are, and then he picks me the champ, and it feels good. Feels good in the matchup. If I have a problem with it, I let him know, and he'll alter how he's drafting in the bot lane. I'm all around. I have nothing but good experience from him so far.
All right. Well, Azog, thank you for the interview. Appreciate your thoughts on the OQ so far, your experience, your history as well, talking about all these great players, and of course yourself. So thank you for coming to this interview. And shout out for Polestar, of course, for letting me conduct these. Don't forget, guys, their game is coming up on Sunday. So tune in to the Titan broadcast to see if Azog is going to continue the very much expected smash all the way into the playoffs. Azog, final words with you.
Shout out to Pulse. Shout out to my girlfriend and my family. Always supporting me. Friends for just kind of watching the games. Other than that, not really much. Just working my full-time job while playing. So let's see how far we can go.
There you go. Supports a full-time job and can play League of Legends and solo queue. Thank you, everyone, and we will be signing off.